just get started. And first thing first, disclaimers. Same thing. I'm not a contractor. This is a strategy for some of you who might be familiar with, some of you might not. Hi, Olu, I see you just turn on your camera. I want to recognize you.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
And Teresa, how are you? Thank you. So I'm just going through the disclaimer first. Before we get started, same thing. Anything we do, we want to make sure we're doing it right, doing it ethically. So if you're working with a contractor, working with a lawyer, working with an accountant, make sure you get their professional opinions. And everybody you work with should have insurance. And although I'm not a lawyer or an accountant, I'm here to share my experience. Although I'm touching upon the area they might have the expertise in. I'm speaking to you as an investor and what we should be looking out for as an investor. Of course, I want to put on a lot of hats, and mainly I want to be the investor. Same thing for you. Remember to put your investor's hat on. So people on your power team, mortgage brokers, accountants, lawyers, and as a mentor, we are there to check your blind spot as well. And I usually ask you who else I have missed on the list. Can some of you unmute yourself? Especially we're going to talk about some strategies that you might need particular power team members on your team. Valerie, who else did I miss out on the list?
General contractor.
Exactly, general contractors. And who else?
Plumber.
There you go, yes. Trades.
Electrician.
Electrician. I think Valerie has a whole list on.
Yeah, there's about 5 of them that are out and about, and they may see distressed properties.
Exactly. And by the way, I didn't put realtor there on the list yet.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can find pocket listing, meaning things that are not listed on MLS, not listed on realtors.ca. Sometimes you do. Opportunities are out there. And you don't have to be the smartest person, and you don't have to be the strongest person. You don't have to be the bravest, as long as you know how to form a team and how to do your due diligence. That's basically what I put there in Chinese to remind me that you want to have people with different talents on your team. It might not be just what they can do. It could also be their talent. Since you're interested in talent, I do want to highlight that. And every time I hear a power team member speak, whether it be a lawyer, an accountant, or other investors, I want to be everything for you. However, remember, leverage other people's time, leverage other people's resources. I always remind you when we begin our webinar or begin a class. And in particular, in the market today. By the way, I do want to see, by a show of hands, you think we're in a recession right now, or you think we're heading towards one? Okay, at least everybody on my camera. However, my point is for you to see the opportunities, not just what the problems are out there. Yes, I do think we're heading into a recession. And every time I'm looking for information, looking for updates for you guys, there's so much to be included right now, more than ever. And I will give you some examples. Here are some logos you might recognize. Hewlett-Packard, for example, was started during recession. I will say just after depression. So Hewlett-Packard was one. Microsoft started during recession as well. And for those of us who are old enough to remember what it was like at the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, you might use their services a lot. And we even have a course that's going to teach you how to use the platform. And the point is, look at these companies. When did they get started? There's a whole list of different companies, including Disney, including other companies. And we use their products every day. If you're thinking we're heading towards a recession, look for opportunities. Look for opportunities. Yes, a lot of people are thinking that we are suffering. Like I mentioned, every time I'm looking for information to present to you, to say, hey, where can we find opportunity in a distress situation, which is what we're in today. A lot of people are dipping into their savings. And I update this information even for creative financing class. I've seen 50% of people earlier last year when I collected the data. And if we look at the data today, more than 60%, so 66% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. And 63% are saying that they're spending their whole paycheck. What does that mean when it says spending their whole paycheck versus people are saying living paycheck to paycheck? I'll just give you an example. Some people might be okay paycheck to paycheck because they have savings. Some people are not okay because they're already getting into their savings. They might not have savings to sustain another month, another 2 months. So what do people do? They get into more debt. And I'm not talking about using good debt to create wealth. I'm talking about people who are just trying to tread above water these days. So another data from a different source is saying that when actually there's another data, I would provide you the information if you're interested. Even people who are considered wealthy, the top 10%, people are still okay. And at the same time, they're realizing that they're actually putting out more money than they used to due to inflation. So almost half of the people surveyed are saying that they realize they're spending more than before. And perhaps some people are still sleeping at night. This is how people feel. And some people are more comfortable with money. Some people are more comfortable with debt. And not too long ago, the data was showing 39% of people are saying that they do feel the pressure of inflation. However, today, the newest data is showing close to half of the people. At the same time, if you're holding a mortgage, a lot of homeowners are starting to feel it. Some people still have fixed mortgage, so that's another discussion. However, I just want to bring it up to show you that in the near future, we're going to see a lot more people suffering. A lot of people are learning or trying to see what's out there for them to do. Perhaps that's where you are today. Perhaps that's why you want to learn more about real estate investing. So we have some people who are already in the community. We also have quite a few people here that are new. So by the end of the session, I'll stay here to answer any questions you may have. I understand that for some of you, you have already taken some courses, fundamental classes at Trust Your Talent. So your questions might be different from people who are completely new to the community. And before we get started, heads up, this is what I'm going to cover with the time we have together. Usually with every event strategy, it takes us at least 15 hours or more to just cover the strategies, whether it being distressed properties, lease options, creative financing, service accommodation, etc. It takes a lot of time for you to just learn about it. However, it's more important that you start to take what you learn and start to take action. For the time we have today, I will go through REI fundamentals because I want you to see that no matter what strategies we talk about or you're going to focus on, the fundamentals are the same. I'm giving you the market data showing that, yes, people are distressed. One thing I do want to point out is that when we talk about distressed properties, it might not be a property that needs fixing. Not just that. A lot of the times, the owners are distressed. So it's a situation. I should say distressed situation. That's why the topic today is finding opportunities in distressed situations, not just distressed properties. And at Trust Your Talent, every time you get into a strategy that's property first, you always look for opportunity to force appreciate. What does that mean? That means that do something that you can have control over. In the situation where it's a distressed property, you know that you can calculate the numbers, fix it, increase the value. So you're not just waiting for the market to appreciate. You're not just waiting for the property value to appreciate. And we already kind of touch upon power team members. Who are the power team members you will need on your power team? when you get into a distressed property. By the way, I think Valerie already mentioned contractors. Yes, contractors, and at the same time, you might need funding. Do you go to the bank? Do you look for people in the community to joint venture with? So this is the focus of today. And same thing, like any strategy or anything you're learning about. If you're just reading it, if you're just looking at the slides, taking notes, and if you turn off the audio, perhaps you're only getting 10% of it. It's when you're hearing it and then you see what's on the slide, see the examples, and writing it down, see and hear it. And once you start to say it out loud, say it to your partner who might be sitting next to you. So Carla's kid is right next to you. Sometimes when you repeat it in front of people you know, it kind of reinforces what you're learning. So 70% is what you say. And if you're doing affirmations, if you have a journal, I have a mindful journal, and I used to have a gratitude journal, depending on what you're focusing on this year. So if you do want to emphasize and help yourself see your goal, make sure you write it down, read it out loud, and since you're in a community, participate in the discussion. You will have opportunities to do that. For the time you have with me today, even though it's only 90 minutes, at the end, I do want you to participate. And if there are questions you have that's going to stop you from learning the next thing we're going to get into, make sure you raise your hand. So it's very important for you to turn your cameras on. I can see those of you who have your cameras on and what your reactions are. And I do think it's by the time you take action and start to practice what you learned and say and do what you've learned here, because you already read, hear, see, and participated. That's when you'll learn 90% of a strategy. I also mentioned that this is just a basic webinar. So you might know enough to be dangerous is when you get to the advanced training that you're going to really see the differences between different strategies and what different things you can do. What's the 10% that's left? I do think it's important for you to remember how it feels to be in the community and to be in a webinar. So make sure you're having fun. If you think it's just numbers, think about what's behind it. Why do I think it's fun? I'm not a very analytical person. I remember how it feels. I remember when I share my stories with you, what each strategy helped me achieve and the stories behind it. And all the fears that we had to face, all the problems we had. And at the same time, on the other side of problems, it's always opportunity. And the opportunities presented and what that was able to help us achieve as an investors. So me as an investor or a trainer at Trust Your Talent, I can tell you everybody faces the same thing. We always have fear. At the same time, we always have fun because that's what's on the other side of problems. And when you achieve what you are setting yourself to achieve, that's why we kept mentioning goals. Goals, you have to have your goals. And it might sound boring. Behind every goal, there's a very, very big why. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it yet. Don't worry about it yet. You can ask yourself what feels right. Right now, is it health that you want to focus on? Is it sustainability? If we're going to keep going at 100 miles per hour every single day and work 12 hours, is that really sustainable? Personally, yes, I do love real estate. I love running the numbers. I love seeing every deal come to fruition. However, is that sustainable? If you're telling me you have kids and they don't sleep, they're active, they're healthy, which is great. However, that also means that they might not sleep until 10 o'clock and you're going to work the next day. Can you sustain it? If not, let's find out a more efficient way. Do you really enjoy what you do? And that's actually an indicator to find out what you're good at. I mean, there's so many different strategies in real estate. Even if you're not handy, you don't enjoy working with distressed properties. However, what do you enjoy? If you enjoy working with people, for sure, you can find other people to do it for you. And sometimes, really, I think it's just fear. So if you're looking for fulfillment, if you have enough financial resources, imagine how many people you can help. I know there are people talking about the war, and there's a lot of things we're not able to control. And if you have the resources, sometimes financial resources is just one aspect. At the same time, if you put financial resources or financial worries aside, imagine how much mental power or space you have to think about other things, to think about things you don't have to worry about. I get that a lot of you want to make an impact on your kids, on your community, perhaps your church. And if you're from abroad, maybe your country, back home. And you might be able to make an impact if you take care of yourself first. That might be your why if you don't know what your why is yet. Think about the 5 core values that trust your talent. If you don't have a why yet, or if it's not clear or solidified for you, think about all these 5 things. Every year we look at the 5 core values and think about what's most important to us this year and how you plan ahead. So let me know what best describe why you're here. It might be fear. You might want to conquer fear. For a lot of people, knowledge is one of the ways to conquer fear because you have the tools. So for yourself, what are you afraid of? I think from yourself, it's self-doubt. What if is the situation you're not able to control? That's why we always talk about 3x3. 3 strategies, 3 different markets, and 3 exit strategies. So you're not stuck. If you only learn about one strategy, you're going to have fear if something goes wrong and you don't know how to pivot. Motivation. If you feel like you need to be motivated and you just want to see other people's success stories, the examples I'm going to go through today, including my own, and also some of the examples from other trainers as well. So you can see that some people have already done it. And you don't have to reinvent the wheels. So strategically, how can you get yourself there? How can you be financially free? Knowledge, if you just want to get some knowledge and see what it's all about, it's completely fine if you just want to start learning. And support. And we're here to support you. Here, I see we have about 17 people in the room right now. You're in the community already. So once you're part of Trust Your Talent family, we're all here to support you, your peers, your trainers, and also our supporting staff. If you just want to have the network and start to learn how to do this, and your network is your net worth. It might not just be about mental support. A lot of the time, students partner up with each other. So they're other people's OPM. And for students who have been in the community for a little bit longer, they're also there to provide some knowledge. So OPK, leverage my knowledge, leverage my time. So for the next 80 minutes, you're going to be here and leverage my time. If you just want to know where to start taking action. So being here is the first step of taking action. By the way, Catherine, can you start the poll right now? So I can understand what everybody is here for or what they want to gain at the end of the session today. So everybody, you can start to vote. Okay, Catherine, I think we can share the results. Wow, surprisingly, everybody is pretty motivated, want to take action. Not a lot of people are fearful, which is great. Because wait till you see some of the pictures I'm going to share. When people look at distressed properties, some people are stressed. I can tell you, yes, I am myself sometimes as well. I see that most people want to start learning and want to stop dreaming and take action. So the first step is if you don't have a strategy coach yet, I think most of you already do. If you don't have a strategy coach yet, make sure you scan the QR code and book a time with them. If you think about it, it's a dream. So a lot of you are saying stop dreaming, start to take action. If you can envision it, it's possible. If you schedule it, it'll get done. Actually, I found it really important to have a schedule. Even when you work with a contractor, make sure you set a schedule. Because things don't get done if there's no deadline. And here are our upcoming events. I do want to see most of you at the annual conference. So here are the courses being offered at the annual conference. It's not just about the classes. And a big part of it is that you're going to see student success stories. I love the parties, by the way. If you're going to come here, dress up nice and we're going to have a lot of good food, good conversation. The great thing is really about the networking. So live workshop, if you know anybody who is new and you do want to have them as part of the community, introduce them to the live workshop after the webinar. So you're going to get incentives as you bring in referrals as well. And we don't just invest in Canada. Some of us are investing in US as well. And foreclosure, by the way, really only happens in the US. In Canada, there's no true foreclosures. And if you're going to bring a friend and if you want to attend the workshop and you're not able to attend it in October, although I do want to see you in October, there is going to be a live online one in November as well. Like I mentioned, this is enough for you to be dangerous. When you get into the workshop, we're going to go through different strategies. We're going to touch upon distressed properties today. Lease option, we actually talked about it last week. So income properties, sometimes we call them multi-unit residential, multi-family. Income properties meaning that, hey, it has to cash flow. It has to bring you income. Wholesale and assignment, and infill and development. Infill and development is the class we're going to offer at the annual conference. It's usually for people who have a little bit more experience. It's different from distressed property. Even though you're thinking you're improving the living standard, you're probably adding units. Infill is very different in the way that it's very project driven. So it's more about how you manage a project versus just making a place looking pretty. And also service accommodation, which is also going to be offered. We don't just include short-term rentals. Student rentals, executive rentals, short-term Airbnb, etc. It's all included in service accommodation. At the same time, this is not just about having the hard strategies in your toolbox. Make sure you learn about business fundamentals. And for students who are in the community, everybody will attend business fundamentals once a month. And creative financing is now divided up into 3 classes. Financing fundamentals, then creative financing 1 and creative financing 2, because we do realize that everybody has different experiences coming into the community. So when you're just starting, we're going to talk about your credit cards and things you probably are already familiar with. Take you to the next level. What can you do with the resources you have? And mainly institutions. Because if you deal with the bank, some people think that's all the financial resources out there that's available. And portfolio management, staging, and design. All these are within the curriculum. Our goal is to be the Harvard of real estate investing. So we're going to have a wide range of courses, events, training. However, it all goes back to who you are. We talk about your goals. We always talk about your goals because you might be looking at different strategies and you might be thinking, why do I have to learn so much? If you're an engineer, if your degree is in commerce, for example, you don't just learn about marketing. You have to learn about math. You have to learn about communication. Same idea. If you want to be a true investor, true seasoned investor, regardless of what stage of life you're in and how seasoned you are. We're going to talk about distressed property. When people think about it, they think about fix and flips. At the same time, you might not have to sell it. You could do private lending on a distressed property. We always say find money in the buy. This is particularly important for this particular strategy. You're not going to overpay for something and thinking that you can force appreciate and make a profit. And once you have different strategies in your toolbox, think about if this is the strategy you're going to focus on, what market will it work in? Teresa, unmute yourself. You're being picked. Can you tell me what SMP stand for? Ted, unmute yourself. Help her out.
First one is strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Market.
Mm-hmm.
and property.
Thank
Oh,
you.
price.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ted. Teresa, I think your microphone is still not working. No worries. The community, he's here to support you. So especially when you get into distressed property, this is a strategy that actually could potentially work in any market. I wouldn't say that for all the strategies. However, when you get into certain market, it probably require more capital versus other markets. So we're going to do a little bit of market analysis, and really it is about what these strategies are going to help you reach your goals. And when it's earned income, usually it's short term. And the characteristics of earned income is that you're trading your time for money. A lot of the times you have to consistently look for deals in order for it to work for you, which is not impossible. I know a lot of you are thinking you're coming to the community and learning about something more passive. If you have a system, fix and flip could also be passive as well. And short-term rental, same thing. It sounds like a lot of work, cleaning, and you consistently have to greet your guests. If you have a system, and that's why you're coming to the classes to learn. If you have a system, the same thing. It could be very passive for you. And I think for everybody, you have a reason to be here. For me, when I started real estate investing, I just wanted to see that real estate investing works. And by the way, when I joined, I was already a little bit older than most of you on screen here. I was already 40 at the time. So we didn't actually have any savings. I thought if anybody is willing to show me how it works, I'm willing to put in the work and learn how it works. We'll talk about RSP and creative financing one. I do want to mention that I didn't have any stream of income when I stayed home with my kids. I stayed with them around when my son was already about 10. So 10 years I stayed at home with them. I don't have any stream of income. And the only thing I have RSP that I could invest with. However, even my RSP is Basel RSP. Think about what each strategy could bring to you, what difference it could make in your life. And actually, my very first deal was done with somebody who was sitting next to me. At that time, everybody was sitting in the conference room. So I wanted to have cash flow, and I do want to have some capital. My focus was lease option. In my very first deal, I just wholesale the lease option deal to somebody I know, and you know this person as well, and you're going to take this class. So we started around the same time, and think about what it could do for you. I mentioned lease option was my focus strategy, and when I wholesale or bring the deal to somebody else with a referral fee, that deal was helping me to go home to Taiwan because I was raised and born in Taiwan. I go back every year. That deal alone helped me to afford a family of 4 to travel back. So the plane ticket was covered. I want you to think about, why do I focus on so many different strategies? Because at different stages in my life, different strategies will help me reach my goal at that time. I can tell you that because I spent a lot of my energy in the past getting lease option deals, etc. Even though it sounds like it was very time consuming, I learned so much. So that might be where you're getting started. And I'm writing my book mainly because I want to pass my knowledge. And at the same time, I understand everybody learns differently. For you, it might be easier for you to sit here and listen to me. For some people, they might not be able to catch me when I speak fast. So some people would like to read. That's my whole purpose of writing a book. For somebody to see that we all follow the same path. And I talk about same thing, the system. How do we all get started? And I have to say, a lot of the times, it's a win-win situation because I do want to give back to the community. And for me, it's learning to speak in front of you because this was my biggest fear. I'm actually very surprised when I did the survey. Not many people are saying they're here because they're fearful of what could go wrong. Especially, we're talking about distressed property. We're talking about people are thinking we're heading towards recession. So again, it is about your goal. If your goal is to build your house or to renovate, look at a distressed property deal, for example. If it brings you $40,000, Perhaps that $40,000 will help you fix your kitchen. Perhaps that $40,000 will help you fix the bathroom that's never been working and you really want to renovate it for your family. For me, it was building my home. So even though I have the cash flow, now I'm actually looking into building more capital again. And I want you to understand that we're all action takers, especially I see some of the students here. Some of you are actually award-winning students. So formal education will make you a living. You're here by choice. You're here by choice. That's why I value your time. I respect you being here. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. And that's why you're here, Valerie. And Teresa, I can see you on screen as well. And I see that everything we do as a real estate investor, as an educator, as a trainer, it actually resonates with me a lot. We're here because we have a vision and we want to elevate human potential. And by helping students reaching financial independence, one person at a time. If I'm not making a difference in your life, I don't mind if you're logging off because I get that. I don't want to waste your time. And I do appreciate you being here. And if you have any questions at the end, I'm always here. So creating financial independence, one person at a time. Anybody just want to give it a shot? What do you think the difference between financial independence and financial freedom is?
Financial freedom is when your passive income pays for all of your living expenses.
Yes. Your basic living expenses. Thank you. Let's take it to the next level. Jonathan, what does financial freedom mean to you? You could give a different answer. Valerie, your answer is correct. However, everybody's goal could be different. So I want to hear, Jonathan, what is financial freedom to you?
Yeah, I got the same answer with like a little bit extra money to do what I want, where I want, when I want type of thing.
Thank you for sharing. Sometimes we call it FU money. So you can spend on whatever you want with whoever you want. And yes, even though we've been in the real estate investing community for a while, I can feel that cash flow is tighter now. I do want to have more FU money at the same time. So once you reach that goal, for example, you covered your basic expenses. Think about the next thing you want to do. Something that excites you. Really, it's not just about number. We buy and sell to create capital so we can buy and hold to create wealth. If you've never heard about this, write this down. We buy and sell to create capital so we can buy and hold to create wealth. I mentioned that in distressed property situation, you can flip it. You're buying and selling so you can have that bulk capital. If you're buying and selling, then you're constantly working. If you can buy and hold some capital and hold some property, then you're creating wealth. You're creating wealth. So that property will create cash flow for you. Financial independence, as I mentioned, that is our goal. So perhaps you're still accumulating capital. At least when you come in the community, we want you to have enough income from real estate. That could be active, that could be passive. There's enough financial gain that help you create that financial independence. So you don't have to depend on a job. And freedom, like Valerie said, yes, it's when your passive income is covering your basic expenses. I mentioned basic. And if you want more cash flow or enough income to cover your trip, to cover your boat, to cover your truck, to cover your Beanie Baby collections, to cover whatever it is, then you need some FU money. That's the next level of financial freedom. So in distressed property situation, these are the 3 rules. Make money in the buy. Make money in the buy. Look for these opportunities. Second, multiple exit strategies. Multiple exit strategies. Actually, number 2, it could be true for any strategies. Once you're in the community and start to understand what strategies could help you reach your goal and you want to focus on. Number 3, forced appreciation. Forced appreciation. What I love about being a real estate investor is you have some control. You have some control over what you can do with a property. It doesn't always go according to plan. Let me emphasize that. However, there's so many different strategies. different ways for you to get out of it. And I wouldn't say every single deal would be profitable. And it's just like investing. If you have different things in your portfolio, as long as overall you're making money, overall it's making sense, and you're not just focusing on one strategy. You're not just focusing on one. So imagine what you can do with all the different tools in your toolbox. And even for distressed property situation, you can flip it, buy and sell it. If you have too many projects on the go, you can even pass it down. We call it wholesale. You can pass it down to somebody else who will have the time, the resources to take on the project. Or you can make it a cash flow income property. So distressed property doesn't have to be single family homes. It could be multi-unit residential as well. Okay. I don't think it's hard to see which is the before and which is the after picture here. A lot of things I love about real estate is that it's common sense. And in the situation when it's property first, always look for opportunities to add value to it. Whether it is to renovate it or add some services like coin laundry, internet, etc. Add value to the property. And by the way, I do want to emphasize what market appreciation is versus forced appreciation. Do you think you have control over the market? No. So we call it natural appreciation or market appreciation as whatever the market is doing. It's something we really don't have control over. Even though people are saying over a long period of time, real estate value always go up. Even though people say that, you don't know when though. And I'm old enough to remember 2009. I remember there are people or teachers who wanted to retire. And at that particular time, they couldn't do that because their portfolio depreciated too much. So yes, even though over a long period of time, real estate price go up, and usually it increases more than inflation. And also at the time, I know in some markets today, the market doesn't always go up. So you look for forced appreciation opportunity. Force meaning you can force it in or you can have control over. If you do not do that, speculation leads to liquidation. Speculation leads to liquidation. I do want you to see the opportunity here because yes, there are always speculators out there. And here's an example. Here's your opportunity to learn. We're going to get through a few numbers, simple numbers, so you can see how this could be potentially making money for you. In this particular situation, the house on top, purchase price at $200,000. Renovation cost $70,000. And you see the landscaping in the front to make it pretty with a lot of flowers. That's going to cost you another $25,000. So all in, it's going to cost close to $300,000. Let's assume it's a 4-month project. 4-month project. ARV means after repair value. After repair value, in case you're not familiar with the terms yet. So after you put in renovation and landscaping, the property will be worth $435,000 in 4 months. Let's assume it takes 4 months to renovate this property. So $435,000 minus $295,000. All the money in and all the money out. There's your profit. So far, does that make sense for everybody? Yes? Do you want to participate in a project like this? There you go. And it's okay if you're fearful looking at the property here. It looks pretty bad. I don't want to get into it. Look at the numbers. Get yourself a little more excited. Thank you, Carla. Any questions? Good.
I actually have a hand up. Sorry, Brooke. Is this a real example?
Very similar.
Similar. I'm just looking at the 70,000 because I'm like, I don't know how you could do that to a house for 70,000. So I'm wondering if these numbers are real. I'll be completely transparent. I'm very skeptical of this.
That's okay.
Like a bathroom costs $40,000 to redo. So I don't understand how you could do a whole house for 70.
Yeah, so these houses are not the real ones. If you read my book, there is an example that I use. It's pretty close to this number. However, it wasn't exactly like this. It gets more complicated. For this example, I just simplify the numbers. And I mentioned that there's so many different ways of structuring it. The deal I had in the book, in this price range, by the way, it was actually a joint venture. So we put money in, no private lending, everybody put money in, and then whatever it's sold, we share the profit. There's so many different ways of doing it. However, you don't have to do exactly that same way. What if you have $70,000 and you don't have $25,000 to finish a landscaping? That was actually one of my different scenario, similar numbers. I helped I helped my fellow investors. Same thing. He was sitting in the class as a student when I was getting trained. He was doing a flip in Guelph, Ontario, if you're familiar with the area. And he need $22,000 to complete landscaping. At that time, I didn't even finish creative financing class. I was very skeptical. And I was just helping my fellow friend out. So $22,000 at 12%. In this scenario, let's assume it's $25,000. You don't even have to take it out of your pocket. What if you look for a balance transfer opportunity? And the one on the right, I think it's currently offering balance transfer fee of 1 or 2%. These are actual numbers. So if you don't have a credit card with a balance transfer offer, take a look at it. Let's just use this number for the purpose of learning. In this distress scenario, again, property purchase price is $200,000, and they have the money to renovate it at $70,000. What if they just need $25,000, additional $25,000 to complete the landscape? So the property is purchased at $295,000. After 4 months, it's going to be sold at $435,000. Remember, we mentioned that how much in, how much out. After repair, you can sell the property at $435,000. So the proceeds is $140,000. What if you don't have $70,000 and you don't have $25,000 for 4 months? What if you borrow the money at 12% per year? It might not be familiar to a lot of you. Just go through the numbers with me. So you don't have the money to put in. So you borrow $70,000 and then you borrow $25,000 for 4 months at 12%. So 700 plus 250 times 4. That's your cost. That's your debt servicing cost. If you have to borrow money for renovating and for landscaping. Okay. So far, so good. And in this scenario, if you're borrowing the $25,000 from the bank, and remember I mentioned that I was helping out my fellow student who was learning with me. So he was my peer at that time. If you have a credit card that's offering a 1% balance transfer fee, and I'm getting $250 per month. I'm getting $250 per month. Would you be lending out the money? Use a balance transfer. So if you're the person running the project, $140,000 is your profit. Even if you have to share the wealth and pay people for helping you out, you're still profiting at $136,000. Who would do this deal? There you go. And these are real examples. These are real examples. I'll let you know the one on the right is one of the rental properties I have. The ones on the left is pictures shared with me by another trainer. So these are real examples. The one on the right, I had 2 sheds for my tenants in the backyard. One for each tenant. It was a 2-unit home. You can call it duplex or you can call it suited. So I had one for each tenant. There's one tenant that never took the garbage out. on garbage collection day. And that's what's happening in the shed. So I got the garbage collector, went in and cleaned out the place for me, and there were rats jumping out. And he said, well, this is not the first time I saw that. And we never opened the shed. We found that out because the other tenant had the shed next to it, smelled it, and saw mice in her own shed. So it sounds like it's a lot to handle. At the same time, this happened during COVID. So the city didn't collect garbage, or they didn't collect additional garbage. So we had to hire somebody private. And again, we're just problem solvers. This is the actual property. So the shed is in the backyard. We fixed it up and then staged it. And the tenant was actually going through divorce. So he has some anger issues. That's one of the walls, he punched through it. And we fixed it. So yes, we profited from it, even though at the time, I was actually stressed. I was actually scared of dealing with them. Sometimes people seem like they had nothing to lose. So I'm surprised people are not saying, okay, when it comes to distressed property, I don't want to get in because of the stress, because of fear. So in this fearless group, I do want to bring that, yes, fear is temporary. And when I look at those pictures, I remember having to deal with that and looking for people who were willing to collect garbage and went in the house during COVID. However, fear is temporary, even when we talked about it, when we look back. And I do want to bring this up. This is one of my favorite quotes. And if you want to watch Steve Jobs' speech, I think it's probably Stanford or commencement speech at one of the universities. Remember that we have limited time on Earth. So I highlight the quote that really resonates with me. Remember that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool he's ever had and he's ever encountered. So I actually had a recent death in the family. So this does resonate with me a lot, especially you have aging parents, or a lot of people have to go through health issues. And that's why when I saw the 5 core values at Trust Your Talent, I'm thinking, why isn't it impact? Why isn't it fulfillment? Why do people highlight health? Isn't that a given? You have to have health in order to focus on other values. However, a lot of the times, probably that's what you should be focusing on. So I do want to share this with you. See if you need to conquer fear to be in the real estate community. Fortunately, when I did the survey today, nobody was fearful, so that's great. Thank you, Kevin. So rule number 1, money in the buy. How do you find money in the buy? A lot of the time, really, it's knowing where to go. It doesn't have to be your own backyard. So, by the way, Carla, 200, 400,000 seems really low in our markets. It does. If you go out of Ontario, or if you go way up north in North Bay and elsewhere, it does happen. So you don't have to work within your own market. I'll give you some example as to which market to look into. So do some market analysis and look for markets that the strategy will work in. I mentioned that distressed property is supposed to work in any market because yes, properties could be more expensive in BC, in Ontario. At the same time, you can also look for $1 million flips. Your profit might be higher. That does require a lot of capital though. So for $2 million, you might be able to do a flip in Vancouver and Toronto, or you can buy a multifamily in other provinces and still find distressed property and fix it and house 10, 20 families instead of one. So which market, how to find it, how to structure a deal. This is important because regardless of what strategies you're going to get into, really, you have to know how to structure a deal. Good deals are found. Great deals are created. By the way, if you don't know how to structure or create a great deal, even if you find deals or the good deals are there, you might not be able to see it. If you don't have the tools, you don't know how to structure a deal. And again, we focus on your goal. With your goal, then look for strategy, market, and properties. A few things for you to look at if you want to learn how to research a market. So DOM, days on market. And recently, if you have started investing a year or two ago, days on market are normally very short. They put out markets within 4 or 5 days. They have offering day. Everybody bid on one property. That doesn't happen if ever anymore. I think it still does. And at the same time, this is our opportunity. Days on market, new listing versus sold. There's not a lot of new listings these days. And you can also check out what's being sold. The market changes when there are more listings versus sold. And neighborhood. What kind of neighborhood do you want to get into? In terms of neighborhoods, why do we want to look at it? And your exit strategies. The neighborhood determines what your exit strategies are. So you don't want to be in a market where nobody's buying, or you don't want to be in a market where there are only 100 people living there. And vicinity to your resources. And if you look at realtors.ca, there's something called walk score. How close are you to stores? How walkable it is? Are there schools? Are there different employers in the market? So these are the things you should be looking at. We talked about GDP, so what's in that market? If there's only one employer in that market, you should be worried. There should be government, there should be, back in the days where there were a lot of cities where auto industry is the only employer in town. It has changed as the population grows. So tourism, you want high tech, you want government, you want education, you want different industry in the market. Employment data, are there jobs? And because if there are jobs, there are going to be renters. They're going to be your customers. Infrastructures, are they building more in that area? So in Canada, we're actually pretty fortunate to have immigrant population growth. Even though the data shows that birth rate has declined actually in Canada. And we have immigrants that help with population growth. That's right. That's why the rent is so high. Rent continue to be high. And housing supply has been an issue, the topic that politicians are talking about. Not get into that, just to give you an idea what's out there, what you should be looking for. With these information, you can check on the rent, ROI, return on investment. Is there potential for appreciation? If there's population growth, if there's new subways going in, if there are new companies moving in, and strategies, why there? And once you know what the market looks like, you can decide where to look into. So in terms of markets, I mentioned new listings, sold, days on market. I think it's safer to say sometimes 45 days or 2 months. So if it's on the market for more than 30 days, you know the seller could start to get desperate because they're still carrying the property if the property is vacant, if there's no income coming in. Less than 30 days on average, meaning that properties are sold very fast. That's usually what we call seller's market, because sellers have a say. Properties go fast. So these are things you're going to look at. Balanced market, meaning roughly about a month or so. So not too many supplies and usually around a month. And just to give you an idea, I was looking at different data. If that's what you're looking at, you can take a look at what's around the universities. My kid just started university, and I look at what's around there. Surprisingly, once the university started to be in that city, a lot of employers start to go in. A lot of people start to move in. And the number of students in every university is actually increasing at the same time. So these are different universities I have looked into. We're very lucky we have the best education system in the world. So a lot of people are coming in. And look at different cities. And this is a data from Southern Ontario. If you want to invest in a different city, similarly, you can look at the data in that area. So when I started to look into Southern Ontario, and even for me, I think sometimes it's overpriced. And it tells you how, so a lot of the times when banks or government look into affordability, they look at how many years, if you don't eat, if you don't buy anything, how many years would it take you to buy that property? Not talking about mortgage or anything else. So if it's a household, for example, if you look at the first one, if a household with double income, it takes 5 years in Barrie to afford a property. So I know some of you in that area, and places like London, Ontario, University of Western. Funny enough, when I look at this data, the ones highlighted in green are the only 2 cities I haven't invested in, either lease option or buy and hold, etc., or fix and flip. And the data actually shows that these are the popular places. So if you're helping out, for example, first-time homeowners, or you're helping out families, what's the average price? What is still affordable? What is still affordable? Again, I only looked at Southern Ontario. So in class, I actually shared the data of all the major cities across Canada. So if you look at this data and you think that the average home price should be around, say, $500,000 to be affordable, then look for those cities. I'm just giving you an example. The data might be updated. And you can look at, okay, this is the price range, and this is a market I want to get into. What data can I pull? What would make sense for me? Even though some areas are more expensive than others, I do want you to see that it's not about how much it costs you. It's about how much it makes you. So in particular market, if the price is slightly higher, if it's still profitable, think about how I can make this work. Okay. And this is one of my student rental, and this is within a short distance to University of Guelph. I sold the property. A lot of the times, funny enough, I thought this was going to be my long-term hold because I have very few long-term holds and I was focusing on lease option at the time. All the long-term holds I wanted to keep ended up being sold sooner than some of my lease options. So again, investors is really about pivoting. And I do want to go through the numbers with you. If it's not intuitive to you yet, just go through the number with me. Go through the process, the thought process, and how you as investors can make money. And if you look at this property, at the time, people thought the purchase price was high, was $540, and the first mortgage was $432,000. So if you just calculate 20% down payment, that's how much we have to come up with. Renovation actually only costs $28,000. I'll tell you why. Because the washroom you saw there, we just changed the vanity, IKEA vanity as is items. It doesn't cost a lot. The kitchen was old. However, we just painted everything white. If you look at the flooring, if you're flipping ever, I think a lot of people use this, $1.29 at the time per square foot. Everybody used gray. It was all carpeted at the time. So not a huge renovation, and it brightens up the whole house. And closing cost was $10,000. There's zero holding cost because we only renovated the upper unit. It's a duplex, by the way, and I know in some provinces you call it suited. In Ontario, it's an up-down, so separate entrance, and they have a common area. Both units could access the laundry room. There's zero holding costs because we had tenants in the basement while we were renovating upstairs. So the total cost is $578,000. Just the purchase price, add renovation cost, and add the closing cost. And I highlighted a few numbers in green. These are the numbers or the amount we have to invest. So we have to come up with a down payment. The bank is not gonna give us 100% loan to value. And also renovation cost was $28,000. And closing costs, lawyer fee, land transfer tax at closing was $10,000. So everything we put in was $146 and change. I'm simplifying the numbers to go through the example with you for education purpose. And we sold the property for $699. I sold it right during COVID, 2020. And if you just calculate how much we sold for and minus the total cost. This is the total profit. This is the total profit we made. And anybody want to give it a shot? What is my return on investment? Return on investment is just how much we put in and how much profit we took out. Anybody want to pull out your phone or calculator? So it's 121, divide that by 146. 121, so 121,000, divide that by 146. What is my return on investment? What is the return on the money I put in? Jonathan, do you have the number for me? No worries if you don't. We'll just go through the examples. So if we just do simple calculation, 121 divided by 126, that was my profit.
83%.
Yeah, 83%. Thank you. That was pretty good.
But Brooke, you're also paying the real estate closing fees, right? Like the 5% off. So the 121 isn't in pocket. Like there's still costs after that.
Yeah.
So is it true to say that it's 83%? Because you, like, I get the point, but I'm just like, in actuality, if you're paying 5% on that 700,000, I don't know what you negotiated, but
yeah. So say if it's
still a good deal nonetheless. I'm just, again, for transparency here.
Yeah. So say if it's 4%, then 700 times 4%. That's a realtor fee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, once you get into the more advanced training, there's also mortgage and how you're gonna take out your money. At the same time, by the way, the renovation cost was my HELOC. So it's not true 28,000, right? So that's gonna improve your return on investment too. So anyways, there's a lot of things when it comes to return on investment we can do to make your return on investment better. And you're here mainly to invest in much of yourself as much as you can, because you're your true return on investment. You're your true return on investment. And yes, when you look at the numbers, you're thinking, okay, it's 82%, 83%. Even if you put in, say, realtor fee, let's reduce it to 78%. Is that still pretty good? Is that still an investment you will go into? Yes? I do hope you're still happy with the return. So put yourself in the investor hat. And I can honestly tell you, I didn't like this property asset strategy because I was afraid of dealing with contractors. I didn't know enough about building, about codes, I don't even pick up a hammer ever. I used to live in a condo. Even to change a light bulb, I will call the management office. So this was actually a strategy I was really fearful about. However, once you have a power team, and if you don't even have a power team, you can partner up with somebody else. So my early flip, I partner up with somebody else who has their own power team, who are actually a plumber or electrician themselves. So something that they are interested in and they have the specialties in. So put yourself in the situation where you're the investor. Make it a scalable business. If you're constantly following up with contractors, or if you're the one that constantly have to pick up the hammer, what can you do with your time? Can you make better use of your time? Let's go through one example. So if you do it yourself, the profit is $35,000. Let's assume you can do it yourself and work on a project for 3 months. You can flip a house and make $35,000 in profit. And you work 22 days per month and 8 hours a day. So if you divide that up, $35,000, divide that by 3 months, divide that up by 22 days, divide that up by 8 hours, that's your hourly rate. You're getting paid $66 per hour. So theoretically, if you can make $35,000 per deal in 3 months, what if you hired it out? So even if you have to pay $15,000 and you only find one deal per month, now you're the investor, you know how to look for deals, you know how to spot deals, how to create deals. If you have to share your wealth, so 35,000 minus 15,000, you have to pay people to do the work, hire it out. Your profit is now 20,000 per deal. So simple math. In 3 months, you can do 3 deals instead of 1. So 20,000 times 3, divided by 3 months, divided by 22 days and 8 hours. Now that's your hourly rate. That's your hourly rate. Meaning that now your time is more efficiently used to look for your deals. So what do you think you want for your time? It depends on your ability really to create a deal, to locate a deal. And I don't know if some of you are already on the mailing list of a lot of wholesalers or flippers or contractors. They locate the deals. And sometimes it's negotiable. You can do that too. You can locate a deal. The example I mentioned to you where I partner up with somebody who was looking for $20,000, $22,000 to complete the landscaping. They basically look for a deal themselves. They spend a lot of time. My friend even sat down with the owner. The owners were retiring, talk about their granddaughter, have dinners with them, and finally spot the deal. You can do that, or you can hire out some of the work because time is everything. So what do you want to do with your time? That's when you have your financial freedom.
Who do we spend most of our time with? This is our time spent with family. It starts with a lot and then drops dramatically in our 20s. This is our time spent with friends. It looks like it peaks when we're in college and then just drops. This is our time spent with our partner. That's where all of our time went. This is our time spent with children. This shows how little time we're going to be able to spend with our children before they grow up. This one is crazy to me. Time spent with coworkers is so high for so much of our life because of our jobs. Our time spent alone looks like it increases quite a bit the older we get and never stops growing. It's easy to forget how valuable time is.
Everybody could hear the sound, right? I should have tech checked. Okay, good. Thank you. I love this because I think it really puts it into perspective. And before my son head out to university, I actually look at the data. And before they were 18, 90% of the time they spent with me is done. So the rest is that 10%. And I do hope you have more time to spend with whoever you want, do whatever you want. And that's why you're not going to be the contractor. You're going to be the one that finds distressed properties, find the opportunities. And I mentioned that it's just not only about distressed property. Find financial distress owners. Sometimes it's not just about financial distress. It's a situation. You probably heard a lot of people are getting into the situation where they're getting a divorce. They just want to get rid of the property and move on. So personal distress, we're helping people out, not taking advantage of people. Or people have health issues. A lot of the times, that's when you can help people and find distressed properties. So different situations, divorce, I mentioned that. People are retiring or they want to be reunited with their family. I found that a lot of the times when the parents are getting old, they want to reunite with their family, to be with their loved ones. Or job relocation. Or sometimes owner passed away and their kids who inherited the property don't know what to do with it. So rather than going through fighting siblings and not knowing what to do, you're here to solve a problem, to help them. And sometimes our knowledge, I can tell sometimes it's not just about that specific strategies. Even the people you know, you might be able to help them out. So we're not taking advantage of other people. I think just give me a second. Can you see the share screen now? Good. Okay. We're taking advantage of the situation because you're the problem solver. And it seems simple. However, when it's not a win-win situation, I think you should walk away. If one party is profiting It doesn't even have to always be financial. If you're just taking away mental stress away for people, that's a win-win situation. And really, there's no failure. You just found different ways to make it work. And we talk about different scenarios, talk about different tools. We talked about different strategies. Work it out and see which strategies will work out, will make more sense. Here is how you spot some opportunities. Handyman's dream, original owner. Once you learn about creative financing, original owner sometimes means that the property market or naturally appreciated for a while. There's equity in the property. It's cozy and cute, might be too small. Great curb appeal as is. One car garage, ready to move in. Really? Or it could be a funky style. So look for the keywords. Look for must see inside. Then what about the outside? Potential. What about as is? What about the situation now? It's really not that hard to spot an opportunity. Can anybody see where the opportunity is? Valerie, can you see where the opportunity is?
Yeah, that little house.
Yes. Find the smallest, the ugliest house on the street. Just drive by. It's really not that hard. So I know sometimes when you drive by, if you're not looking for opportunities, it doesn't seem to come out for you. Once you're looking for opportunities, they're everywhere. What do you think are some of the questions you want to ask the seller? If you walk on the street and the seller seems to be home, what would you go up to the seller and ask? You never know, just finding opportunities. Olu, what do you think you want to ask the seller? What kind of question? Give me an example of a question you might ask. Could be anything.
Would you be interested in possible sale in the future of your home?
Are you interested? Okay, that's a good one.
Or also, you may ask, what are their plans for, in terms of long term? Do they plan to stay in this home for a long time? Kind of talk around it a little bit to see if they have an appetite for that conversation.
That's a good one. Lisa, anything else you could think of?
I feel like Olu literally hit the one that I was about to say that I had in mind. It was just really just going up and just being authentic about your question and saying, would you be interested in selling? I live in a condo and I get wholesaler things all the time. I ask people who will ask me literally. They have a lot of investors that will drive by my condo area that ask those literally direct questions. But I can't think outside the box on this one too much, Brooke. So I'm hoping maybe someone else can bring something else up.
No worries, Lisa. Anybody want to volunteer? Any other questions you might want to ask, Valerie?
What's going on in the neighborhood? What's the neighborhood like?
Good one.
You just talk to them about changes they may be seeing.
I like that. Okay, the neighborhood. Okay. Anything else? We should be wondering how long they've owned the property. Why do you like the property? And yes, what about the neighborhood? Amenities. What about the neighborhood? You can ask if there's any repair required. And instead of asking, do you want to sell? You can ask, why do you want to sell? Is there any reason you want to sell? After you ask them, if they're interested, they might be. And how can I help you with your situation? So just have a conversation. Yes, Lisa, be authentic and see what situations they're in. Like everything we do here, there's a purpose, there's a reason. We ask them how long they have lived there because there might be equity in it. So if they've already made a lot of money, probably they don't care if the price is crazy high. What do you like about it? And one thing about being authentic is really about the emotion. See if they're motivated to sell, if they're attached to the property. Sometimes if you're saying, okay, I'm gonna take care of your chandeliers in the house, the piano in the house, they might just be given the property to the person that's emotionally attached and would take care of the property, or fit the neighborhood, the school, the location, yes, the neighbors, repairs. So if there are repairs, you know that there's room for negotiation. Anybody has gone through inspection when you put in an offer? Yes, yeah. So you're looking for opportunities where potentially the price could be dropped. And by the way, the property I showed you earlier, that was actually a property I put in an offer in. And at the time, it was 2021. The market was crazy. There were 13 offers on the property. It was a crazy good area, so a lot of people want to get in. And if you look at that street, most of the lots are taken and already rebuilt. And I think what set us apart was that I wrote them a letter. And I was actually just sitting in the parking lot when I was getting a bank draft. And my realtor said, why don't you just write them a letter? Say why you want this house. At the same time, I got a bank draft to go with my offer, with the letter. My offer wasn't accepted yet. And I thought, okay, if they didn't accept it, I'll just put the bank draft back in my bank account. If you have the bank draft ready, a lot of the times in a situation where there are multiple offers, the sellers are worried that people are not able to close or don't have the means to. So that really helps if you can show that you have a bank draft. Another tip, put in enough so that both commissions, both buyer and seller's agent commission are covered. Just put enough deposit to do that. Because if you're the only one with a bank draft, who do you think they would negotiate for? Their commission is already covered. So just a few tips and something I want to share with you. Sometimes it's just not about what's in the contract, what's in the purchase agreement. And ask them what problems you can help to solve. Solve other people's problem. That's when you can create a win-win. And I love this strategy because there's so many different exit strategies. I already mentioned that you can sell it for profit. It's a fix and flip. And we've gone through one example and showed you the numbers. Actually, we went through two examples. So one with a house that was only costing $200,000 and another flip I did. So you can sell for profit, wholesale, meaning if you found a property, that's what a lot of wholesalers do. A lot of wholesalers are actually contractors or flippers themselves. If they have too many deals on the go, they can wholesale some of the deals. Once you get into the wholesale strategy and take the course, you know that Trust Your Talent would do it differently. Make sure you only wholesale when it doesn't fit your goal. It doesn't fit your strategies. Don't wholesale it because it's a bad deal. You just want to make quick dollars. And always leave some money on the table. Meaning that if somebody wants to fix it, if they sell it, there's still enough profit for the next person to take on the deal. And number 3, you can buy and hold and create cash flow. It could be Airbnb, it could be student rentals, it could also be long-term holds, income property. And some rare occasions, because we always focus on people first, lease option strategy, tenant first. In rare occasions, you can also turn these properties into lease option strategies as well. And if you have been investing, have you heard of BRRRR? Yes? At Trust Your Talent, we don't call BRRRR a strategy because it's part of distressed property. It is a process. And actually, a lot of people are focusing on that one single thing, BRRRR. A lot of the time, if it doesn't work, you have to pivot. So you have to learn about different strategies. Let's look at this example. If we're looking into fix and flip, same thing, purchase price, $440. And the first mortgage at 80% loan to value, meaning that you have to come up with the rest. 20% down payment. Renovation cost in this example is $89,000. Closing costs, simple number, put in another $10,000. Everything I highlighted Green is the money that you're going to put in. So in some cases, while you're renovating, you're not able to rent it out. You have to hold a mortgage. You have to pay for utilities. You have to pay property tax and insurance. So if you cannot rent it out during that time, there's holding costs. In this example, I use $10,000. So the total cost is $550. Okay, so let's just go through the numbers. Remember, the numbers highlighted in green is the funds we're going to put in. And this property was sold. Actually, I sold this property. It was more than that, not too long ago. However, when I was writing the example, roughly it was reappraised at that value. So it could be sold for $650. So everything you sold it for minus the whole cost, that's how much profit you're gonna get out of it. Remember, ROI is how much in and how much out. So total profit, 100,000 divided by 197. So this one, you don't even have to pull out a calculator. You know that 100,000 is roughly half of 197. So roughly 50%, slightly more than that. That is your profit in this situation. Okay, so that's your return on investment. That is your return on investment. So if you just fix it and flip it, what if you want to keep it? So BRRRR process stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Some people put more R's in it, return, rinse, and repeat. Regardless, this is the process. So if you buy under fair market value, this is where the 3 rules of distressed property comes in. So we buy cheaper than market price. This way, that gives us some room to control our investment. So it is more sustainable and repeatable as a business. Money in the buy, we buy under fair market value. Forced appreciation, that's the rule number 2. So you renovate to add value. I'll give you an example. And first thing first, we'll go through the process. You improve and increase the rent as your exit strategy. So in the BRRRR process, you're assuming that you're going to keep the property. You're not going to sell it. And how do you take your money out of the property? If you're not going to sell it, you refinance it, meaning that you get another mortgage from the bank. So you get more money out of it. Same property, assuming that our cash flow, I didn't go through the cash flow number. I'm just giving it to you. So in the original scenario, the cash flow is just over $1,000. After refinance, meaning that you're taking out more mortgage. And let's not go through the detail of the mortgages. I'm just giving you the number. Think about the process. So with the increased value, you're going to pay additional mortgage of $900. So 1,100 minus 900, now your cash flow is reduced after refinancing. Originally, it's $1,130. After you refinance, you take the money out. But at the same time, you're paying more in mortgage. So money in is $197,200. After you refinance, meaning you take out another mortgage, you take out another $171,000. However, you have to pay financing on that. So you put in 197, you took out 171,000. This is how much you have left in the deal. So to control this property, you only put in basically 26,200. So that's the BRRRR process. Okay, just go through the number with me. I get that. Today, you might not be able to refinance as much, etc., because the bank are more conservative, or your cash flow might be reduced. However, this is the process, and that's why people love the process. Because imagine instead of 197,000, you only have to put in 26. So 197 divided that by 26. Instead of controlling one property, you're now able to control 197, so 5 or 6 properties. Okay? So that's the BRRRR process. We call it money in, money out, asset for free, income for life. So that's how you make your money run faster. Money in, then when you refinance, money out. Eventually, there's going to be enough appreciation. Your asset, you can have the asset for free. And then even though the cash flow is reduced, you still have income for life. What if you turn it into a short-term rental? So if you turn it into a short-term rental, instead of 2 units as a duplex, 2-unit rental, your cash flow is going to be improved. And assume that you can get $2,800 on average for the first unit. Second unit, $1,600 on average. I say on average because once you get into short-term rental, you know that sometimes you have tenants or you have guests. Sometimes you don't have as many guests in winter in some area, for example. Something to note is that property management fee or the platform might take a fee. So I put down property management at 20%. You're going to pay slightly more for property management. However, your cash flow is significantly improved when you adopt this strategy. So we've gone through 3 different strategies, 1 property, 3 exit strategies. Now your cash flow is more than 466. By the way, do you see this is the GPS or the map I'm following for this session today? I hope this makes it more clear for you. Distressed property, you have your goal, you have your SMP. Most importantly, it is the return on investment mindset. I'm here to educate and inspire you, no matter what strategy you're gonna decide to focus on. I think eventually everybody will touch upon distressed property. Why? Because if you focus on, say, income property, you're gonna need to fix something at one point. And you're gonna increase the value at one point. If you focus on lease option like me, sometimes I had to help tenants consider what are the possibilities to add a bedroom, to clean up some part of the house. So distressed property is always something that as investors, you will also touch upon. That's why distressed property now at Trust Your Talent is a financing fundamental class that everybody will take and learn about. So I hope you're having fun today. So you're getting educated, you're getting inspired, and you're having fun so you remember what it was like to go through the strategies with me. Remember money in the buy, we went through 3 different exit strategies. And you first appreciate, similarly to the BRRRR process. If it's still not clear to you, make sure you speak to a strategy coach. If you want the slides, go through your strategy coach and get the slides from them. And take down the dates. I know some of you are already gonna come to the live workshop and the annual conference. Ted, am I gonna see you at the annual conference?
Sure, we're gonna have a drink together and we're gonna talk.
Exactly, thank you. Now I'm excited. And there are more upcoming events as well. And I know some of you are already students at Trust Your Talent. So thank you, Lisa. I know some of you are already students in the community. If not, and if you haven't taken one of the courses we're going to offer at annual conference, make sure you register on time. Olu, what are you going to take at the annual conference?
I'm taking the, I believe it's short-term rentals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Exit strategy 3. Okay. Short-term rentals. Thank you. And if this is your first webinar, the next step is to learn about different strategies and how everything could work together. So if you're not able to be with us live at the workshop, there's going to be an online one in November. And this is what's going to be like at the annual conference. I belong to you. I belong to you. Do just what you want. You're the one I trust. And I always be around when I need some loving, baby.
Trust Your Talent is just an amazing, amazing community. I always tell people how it is about the people that you surround yourself with And the people of Trust Your Talent are so warm and open and caring and trustworthy. I've done many partnerships with people in Trust Your Talent, and I have really expanded my real estate investing knowledge.
This is my first time here at the Trust Your Talent annual conference, and it's just been unbelievable energy from everybody, unbelievable networking, and lots of learning.
So people have asked me, why Trust Your Talent? Do you guys run a modeling agency? I used to say, no, that's not what we do. And then the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of going, you know what, that's exactly what we do. Because every single one of you in this room, every single one of you in this room is a role model. For everybody else out there in your life, or just out there, period, that yearns for something more and something better out of their own lives. So I really do believe that every single one of us is that role model. So give yourselves a round of applause, please.
You fall off track. That's okay. Don't worry. We all do. Get back up and charge forward. You are responsible for you. Don't leave your journey in someone else's hands. Begin with the end in mind and keep flexing your proactive muscles to make things happen.
Thank you, everybody, for spending the evening with me. I know there are a lot of questions in the chat, and I haven't got a chance to read it. I just want to leave the last 5 minutes for everybody if you have any questions. We're all good? Okay, thank you, everybody. So I'm going to close the meeting if nobody have any questions. Thank you for spending the time. Take care. Any questions, reach out.